All right, today's Daf Yomi, really the month's Daf Yomi, is sponsored by the Durbach, Abudi, and Mandel families in honor of the engagement of Shaul Harris to Meira Mandel. May they build a bias. Neman B'Yisrael, filled with Torah, Simcha, and Bracha. We are at the Mishnah on bottom of Nun Hey Amud Beis. Next topic. Hamagadev Eino Chayev Ad Sheyaforish Hashem. Somebody who blasphemes Hashem's name, going through the Averus that we're doing. Again, the theme is the Averus that you get skila for. So the next one on the list is Megadev, somebody who blasphemes Hashem's name. So somebody who blasphemes Hashem's name only gets the skila if they actually speak out Hashem's name. Rashi says the four-letter name, Yud K and Vav K. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, Shimon Karcha says.
Wait.
Yes?
The way we announce it?
I don't think so.
Or the way...
I think the way we pronounce it is not the Yud K Vav K because we pronounce it.
Actually saying it.
I believe so.
You're not allowed to say it anyways. That's why. So
yeah. Well, you're not that. Yes.
Is that why some Siddurim have the 2 Yuds inside of? Is that why some Siddurim have the 2 Yuds?
The 2 Yuds is actually interesting. Where 2 Yuds comes from is that there are is the 2 names of Hashem, Yud K Vav K and Aleph Daled Nun Yud. And so what they would do in old siddurs, if you take a look at some of the old siddurs, is they would start with the Yud and then put the Aleph and then the Hey and then put the Daled and intersperse the 2 names together so that the first letter was a Yud and then the last letter was a Yud. So exactly like that right there, right? Oh. Okay, and so that name then becomes contracted. So the first letter and the last letter together becomes the Yud Yud. And so in Siddurim for a long time, Yud Yud was the name of Hashem, and that's why it became right. The Chabad Siddurs have that. It has fallen out of fashion. If you take a look at the art scroll, it doesn't do it. Yeah. And so we noticed at school, for example, that many children did not know what Yud Yud was. We showed them the Yud Yud. And some of the teachers were like, that is a skill. That how did we not teach that? How did a kid get to 5th grade and not know what Yud Yud was? And I said, because it doesn't exist. Yeah. I mean, it's not really Hashem's name. Right. And it's only an abbreviation, and Siddurim are not using it. It just became something that you would be like, it seems crazy for anybody, I guess, over 40 to assume that somebody would not have seen it. But these kids didn't grow up with it. Art school doesn't use it. It's not in the Chumash. It's not, so it's very interesting. Okay. Bechol yom donin ha'edim bekinui. So when they judge this case and they have this discussion, so the conversation between the judges, they don't want to actually say the blasphemy, right? They don't want to say the bad words, the cursing of Hashem. So therefore, what they do is they use nicknames. So they use, for example, Yake Yossi es Yossi. They would say Yossi instead of the name of Hashem. Rashi says because it has 4 letters, and it has 3 out of the same 4 letters of the Yud K Vav K. So 2 out of them, right? And the Yud again. So therefore, since it has some similarities, they would use Yossi as a stand-in for the name of Hashem when they were having discussions in the case. Nigmar Hadin, when they came to the conclusion of the case, Lo Horgin Bekinui, they couldn't kill the person based on that, right? Because you need the explicit testimony of the witness to say he really said that. So Ela Motziin Kol Adam L'chutz. So rather what they do is they cleared the courtroom, and Sholanes Hagadol Shebenehem, they would ask the senior witness. The Omer Lo, they would say to him, Amor Ma Sheshamat. Befeirush, you have to explicitly state what it is that you heard. Vehu Omer, and he would say it out loud. V'hadayanan Omdim, and the judges would stand. Al Ragleim, stand up on their legs. Vekorin, and they would tear their garments. Velo Ma'achin, and they would never fix those garments. They would leave them torn. Vasheni Omer, the second witness, didn't have to repeat it. He would say, Af ani kamohu, I heard the same thing. And Vashlishi Omer, and the third one would say, Af ani kamohu, I also heard the same thing. That would be sufficient. So at least they needed to minimize the amount that it was spoken. Says the Gemara, Tana, Ad shiyavorech shem b'shem. Now it's common that in order to say something negative, the Gemara will flip and say the exact opposite. So the word yivarech, to bless, is used as a euphemism for to curse. So when we see it, that's what's going on here. So we learned that the Megadef has to curse Hashem with Hashem's own name, right? Because there's no power as great as Hashem. So he's to say the shame of Hashem should...
I swear to that.
Well, if you say I swear, you swear, that isn't enough, right? You have to be able to. You have to say that the Hashem should bless Hashem. That's basically the formula that we're looking to use, right? Except not bless. Right. So Minani immediately, where do I know that from? Because Amar Shmuel says, Damar Kro, the pasuk says, if you read the whole pasuk, v'nokev shem, it starts off that he curses Hashem's name, b'nokvo shem, and in the end, in his cursing of Hashem. So it starts with the cursing, ends with the curse of the shame. You must, then he dies. So therefore, has to be shame b'shem. Now, mimai dahai nokev lishna de beruchehu. How do you know that the word nokev is translated as to curse, right? Dichsiv, because the pasuk says, "My kov lo kava." Kale. This is what Bilam says. What can I curse? He turns to Balak. He says, "What am I supposed to do? I can't curse anything that Hashem hasn't cursed." So you see, that's the word ekov means to curse. Ve'azhara se mehacha. And that is where the punishment is. The Pashat says that anybody who curses Hashem's name gets skila, that we need the lo saseh. Where's the lo saseh? Mehacha from the Pasuk says, Elokim lo sekalel. You cannot curse Hashem. Pretty straightforward one. Now, ve'ema mivraz. Maybe the definition of nekev means to puncture, because linkov and nekev is a hole. So maybe that's another alternative translation. Maybe linkov, the isser, is to puncture the name of Hashem. So you'd have it written down in the Torah and you poked a hole through it, then you'd violate it. Dichsiv, because the pasuk says, how do I know it means that? So mivers who, that maybe it means to be punctured. Dichsiv, the pasuk says, vayikov chor bidalto, right? It says that that you carve, that in Malachim, that he carved a hole in his door, right? And that's where he, right? Oh, that's where they were hiding the money that they were delivering near the Mizbeach. They hollowed out this area, but again, the word nekev there in that pasuk means to hollow something out. So vazharas hey mehacha, and if that's the case, where would be the prohibition against puncturing the names of Hashem? Mehacha from this pasuk, the badatem Hashemam, destroying the name of Hashem, is a lo saseh. Now, it's still going to be, in the end of the conclusion, it's going to be usher to destroy the name of Hashem. However, you don't get skila for it. It's not the same thing. You don't get skila for, if you have the name of Hashem and you erase it, you don't get skila for it. It's a lo saseh, you're not allowed to do it, but it's a regular standard lo saseh punishment would be kares and malchus, right? So you get lashes for it, but you wouldn't get skila for it. That's the issue. So lo sasun king Hashem lo kechem, right? He says, you should destroy the names of the idols, but you should not do that to Hashem. But ina shem b'shem v'leka. The answer is, because if you read the pasuk that says that we're supposed to get skila, it requires the name to do whatever the avera is to the other name. So when it was cursing, you had the name of Hashem curses the name of Hashem, right? But if you have to puncture the hole, how do you have the name of Hashem puncturing the name of Hashem? That doesn't make sense. So ve'ema demanach shnei shemos ha'adadi obazalahu. So why don't you just take two names of Hashem, write the names, put the two pieces of paper together, and shove one through the other? That's how it works. So the answer is ahu no. Where I guess you take a knife and stab it through the two of them.
It's saying one causes the other one.
Oh, that's the point. That's the problem, right? Ahu no kev v'chozer v'no kev. That's not one puncturing the other. That's just puncturing it twice. Right? You're just running it through one Shem Hashem and then into the other Shem Hashem. It's not puncturing one Shem Hashem with the other Shem Hashem. Okay. So maybe what you do is you carve the name of Hashem into the knife. And then you can use that knife to puncture the Shem of Hashem. So using the Shem of Hashem to puncture the other Shem of Hashem.
Is that another way of cursing Hashem?
No, now we're saying it's not curse, because now we're saying that the word linkov means to puncture rather than to curse. We're suggesting an alternative. Okay? But the answer is no. Hahu churfa de sakinahu de kabasa. That isn't really the name of Hashem that's puncturing. It's the edge of the knife that's puncturing. It just happens to be that the knife has the name of Hashem written on it, but the edge of the knife is doing the puncturing. It's not the name of Hashem. Okay, so that doesn't work. We can't do shame b'shame if it means to puncture. So that possibility is out. But there's another potential translation of the word linkov. Ema pirushe shmehu. Maybe it means to explicitly say the name of Hashem out loud. Dichsiv, as the pasuk says, "Vayikach Moshe v'Aaron es hanashim ha'ela asher nikvu b'shemos." Right, these are Hashem took the names of these Hashem that Moshe and Aaron took these men who were appointed by name. And nikvu means to appoint or to specify, to say it out loud by name. And the prohibition against speaking Hashem's name out loud would come from here. You need to fear Hashem's name. So again, in the end, you cannot say Hashem's name out loud. You cannot use Hashem's name in vain. But it's not a prohibition of skila, right? But we're trying to suggest maybe that is the prohibition, right? The prohibition is skila. So the answer is, Chada, first of all, Dba'ina Shem B'Shem, V'leka. How are you going to have a circumstance if it's pronouncing Hashem Hashem? How do you pronounce Hashem's name with Hashem's name? That doesn't fit, doesn't work within the pasuk again. V'od, and second of all, Havile azharas aseh v'azharas aseh lo shmei azhara. This is not a prohibition, it's a positive commandment to fear Hashem. The positive reason you cannot speak Hashem's name out loud is because you have a positive commandment to fear Hashem. If you speak Hashem's name out loud, you're not violating a prohibition, you are not succeeding in fulfilling a positive commandment. That's not the same thing. And azhara has to be a negative commandment.
But doesn't it say in the Torah, you're not allowed to say Hashem's name in vain?
It does not. Well, look, that lo sisa Hashem ukacha, right, taking Hashem's name in vain, which is in the Seres Dibros in this week's parsha, is to swear falsely, right, to make a shua shav. So that prohibition is to say, I swear that the sun is hot, or I swear that the sun is cold, something that's obvious to swear, or something that is obviously not true. That's what that prohibition is. But to say Hashem's name by itself is not in that category.
When someone says it without the name, I swear to God, is that considered even? No. It's, yeah, you have to.
Whether that's a kinoi or not,
right,
the answer is yes. We're going to see, well, when we get around back to Maseches Nedarim and actually Shavuos is coming up, right? So maybe it'll even be in Shavuos that using kinuyim, using nicknames for Hashem as substitutes may in fact be part of that prohibition. I'm going to say may because I have to remember it's been 6 years, but we'll get there. We'll get there soon. Okay. The e-boys ema. Or else I have another potential answer is, Amar Kro, the pasuk says, Vayikov Vayikalel, right? The pasuk, when it talks about the person who blasphemed in the midbar, who got punished with skila, it says, Vayikov ben Aisha Yisrael es Hashem Vayikalel, right? First thing he did is Vayikov, and then Vayikalel. He did those two things. Now, Lememra the Nokev Klolahu. So the Gemara says, it's easy if you understand the pasuk means those are two synonyms. Right? He cursed Hashem, and then when he cursed Hashem, this is what the consequence was. So Gemara says though, but Vidilma ad David Tarvayu, maybe he had to do two things. He first of all had to specify, say the name of Hashem out loud, and then a second punishment, a second problem is that he also cursed Hashem. Maybe he did both. Lo salkadaitach. Don't think that because because when it talks about his punishment, how they punished him, it says hotzias hamekalel. They took the one who cursed. They didn't take the guy out who did the pronouncing of Hashem's name and the cursing, right? So the only thing that mattered was the cursing. So therefore, that's what he did. So you see from there that nokev and mikalel is the same prohibition. It means to curse. That's what the prohibition is. That's what you get skila for. That's the one. Tanu Rabbanan Rabbanan. Ish. So now it says ish by the pasuk is, they're quoted on the side, Vel b'nei Yisrael tidaber lemor ish ki yikalel elokav v'nasochato, right? To tell b'nei Yisrael, ish, double language of a man and a man who curses Hashem, and his sin is going to be, he's going to bear his sin. So now, ish, so I understand it applies to a person, matam ish. Why does it have to say man twice? Every man. So who's it including? L'rabos esa uvdei kochavim. This is to tell me non-Jews are also included in the prohibition. They're also not allowed to curse Hashem's name. However, their punishment is different. They don't get skila for it like Jewish people. They get sayif. Why? Because all of the prohibitions that apply to non-Jews are always, their punishment for non-Jews is always sayif. Their death sentence is always saif. There's no other than the sword. There's no other death penalty. Is this the source? The source ish is the source to tell me that non-Jews or that one of the Sheva mitzvos b'nei Noach is cursing Hashem. This is going to be exciting because now we're going to get into Sheva mitzvos b'nei Noach for a couple of pages. So mehasam nafka, that comes from another pasuk, and we're going to go through that pasuk later on in order to extrapolate all of the Sheva mitzvos b'nei Noach. And that pasuk is in Bereshis, the beginning. Vayetzav Hashem Elokim al ha'adam lemor. Hashem commanded man saying, "Mikol eitz hagan achol tochel." You should eat. You can eat from all of the trees. We're going to expand every word in that pasuk to explore to be expanded to mean one of the seven mitzvahs b'nei Noach. The word Hashem, zu birkas Hashem. The Hashem in that pasuk tells me that cursing Hashem's name. I know it doesn't sound like from the pasuk, but you'll see. Wait till you get to the drasha. The word Hashem in that pasuk tells me that a non-Jew can't curse Hashem. So therefore, why do I need that other pasuk? Summer of Yitzchak Nafka, Lo Nitzracha El Rabos Kinuyin. So the answer is this pasuk comes to include that non-Jews are also prohibited to curse Hashem's name using nicknames of Hashem, right? Not just the Shema Maforish of Hashem, like we said, that the Shema Maforish is the only way for you to be in trouble. But for non-Jews, even if they use, let's say they say the word God, that also would be a prohibition for them if they curse God's name, right? Or they use some other name to mean God. That is also a prohibition. Valiba de Rabbi Meir, it goes according to Rabbi Meir's opinion. The Tanya, as we learn in a brisa, ish ki yikalel kav, a person, right? All people, as we said, is a good way to translate. All people who curse Hashem, v'nasacheto, he becomes burdened by his sin. Ma Talmud lomar. Why does it tell me that? V'lo kvar nemar v'nokev shem Hashem mos yumas. Already says to me that somebody who curses Hashem's name is going to get killed. Lefish nemar v'nokev shem mos yumas. It says somebody who curses with the name of Hashem, he dies. Yochel lo yechayev el Hashem hamiyuchad bilvad. You might think, like our Mishnah says, that you're only going to be chayev if you use the shem hamaforish, the explicit name of Hashem. Minayin lerabos kol kinuyin. How do I know that if I'm going to include all of the nicknames of Hashem? Now, what Rashi explains, nicknames, the word shakai, the word kale, all of those elokim, those are nicknames, meaning not the Shema Meforish of Yud Ke Vav Ke.
Like Harachaman. Is that a nickname?
That probably works also. I would say that even the ones that we say, correct, those are because it refers to Hashem explicitly. It's not just a characteristic of him. It really is his name. So that I believe so, but Rashi doesn't quote that as one. I'm going to suggest just based on my thoughts, but we'll see if that's true. Talmud lomar ish ki yikalel elokav. It says a person who curses his God mikol makom in any way. David Rabbi, that's what Rabbi Meir says. So Rabbi Meir says this prohibition, this extra word tells me all nicknames as well, and it's talking about Jews. And ish tells me that prohibition includes non-Jews as well.
See, like, why would they do it? Mikom makom is in every place.
Yes.
So why wouldn't we look at it? Maybe it means like there's nowhere you cannot, like, as a place rather than in a way.
He means, because he's learning from the pasuk, lo yikalel elokav. It has nothing to do with location, right? Mikom makom means in any circumstance.
Okay.
Right? The Chachamim said, al shem hamyuchad b'misa. The Chachamim disagree. They say, like our Mishnah says, that only if you use the Shema Meforish of Yud Ke Vav Ke, so then you are in violation. You get Misa. However, I lost my picture, my page, and I lost my place. Ve'al hakinuyin ba'azhara. But if you use the nicknames, it's a lo saseh. Prohibition, but it's not. You don't get the death sentence. Upliga de Rabbi Maisha, and this disagrees with Rabbi Maisha, the Amar of Maisha. Ben Noach shabirachis Hashem bekinuyim. So this disagrees because now this opinion said that Rabbi Meir holds that non-Jews are going to get killed for using nicknames of Hashem to curse, just like Jews. The Chachamim are going to say no, they won't, just like Jews. Okay, and now says Rabbi Maisha Ben Noach shabirachis Hashem bekinuyim. That if Ben Maisha says that a non-Jew who's curses Hashem's name with a nickname, l'Rabbanan chayiv. According to the Rabbanan, not according to Rameir, according to the Rabbanan, they are chayiv as well. My taimo, what's the reason? The Amar Kro, because the pasuk says keger ke'ezrach. That it says, right, that in the pasuk about, this is the pasuk about skila, right. It says that this applies, kol ha'eda, keger ke'ezrach, the convert just like the natural born, right? Ger ke'ezrach hu deba'inan binakvo shame. This means that a convert or a natural born Jewish person, they're the ones who have to specify literally the name of Hashem. Right. However, aval ovei kochavim ben a non-Jew who is not a convert and is not a natural born Jew, afilu bekinoi, they're also going to be in violation if they use a nickname.
The Rabbanan. So could I ask?
No, deraisa.
Oh,
right?
deraisa.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Deraisa.
I said it was a gezerah the Rabbanan.
No, not on goyim. Yeah, the goyim.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand. I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense. Okay.
No, that's right.
But gezerah the Rabbanan for Yidden, that would be
no. It's mido. Well, from the
midoraisa. No,
midoraisa, it's going to be a lo saseh for a Jew. From a non-Jew, it's going to be the same as the explicit name of Hashem.
Right.
Right. For Rabbi Meir. So now the question is, according to Rabbi Meir, what is he going to do with this pasuk? What does he do with this pasuk? Because he doesn't need that. He uses ish to tell me explicitly the name of Hashem. So what does he do with this pasuk? So the answer is ger ve'ezrach beskila ava ovi kochovim b'sayif. The answer is that the pasuk that's talking about the skila punishment is only applicable to the convert or the natural-born Jew, right? A non-Jew who commits this avera gets sayef by death by the sword, not death by skila. So therefore, that's the limiter. The limiter in Ger Ezrach is the punishment of Misa. Salka daita chamina, I would have thought to say, hol israbu, once we're including the non-Jew in this avera, so then he's included as, he's considered everything. All the Jew, whatever the laws are for the Jew, that's the way that it works for the non-Jew, the same way. He gets the same skila punishment. Kamash malon. Rav Yitzchak Nafcha, Rav Yitzchak Naf says, what about according to Rav Yitzchak Nafcha, right, who said that that Hashem is going to the word Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka, what was his shita? It says he holds like the Rabbanan that both the Yisrael and the Ben Noach who use the kinoi, they don't get misa, right? He says that they don't get misa because he doesn't learn it from ish and he doesn't learn it from keger ke'ezrach. Either way, he says that doesn't apply. So according to him, what does keger ke'ezrach do? So the answer is mayaveleg ger ve'ezrach. Hu de ba'inan shem b'shem. Aval ove kochavim lo ba'inan shem b'shem. The answer is, it limits the requirement that the Jew has that in order to be liable, you have to curse the name of Hashem with the name of Hashem. A non-Jew doesn't have that requirement. If he just says, curse the name of Hashem, that is going to be sufficient for Misa. A Jew has to use the shame of Hashem to curse the shame of Hashem. Ish lamali. So then, according to all those opinions that don't use ish to teach me that it applies to a non-Jew, so then why does it say ish in a double language? So the answer is Dibra Torah Koloshon B'nei Adam. Sometimes the Torah uses language that is familiar speak, the way that normal people speak, and ish means each man, rather than every man, all to include a new category of men that you otherwise wouldn't have included. It's just each person. Okay, now, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis learned, Sheva mitzvos nitztavu b'nei Noach. Okay, let's get into the Sheva mitzvos b'nei Noach. There were 7 commandments commanded to the children of Noach. Dinin ubirkas Hashem. The first one is dinim, to make courts. Birkas Hashem, cursing Hashem's name. Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayus, let's say adulterous or incestual relationships. Shvichus damim, murder. V'gezel, stealing. V'ever min achai, eating a limb from a live animal. Okay. Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel, we'll change it to Gamliel, says, right? Gamliel says, Af al hadam minachai. The non-Jews are also prohibited from drinking blood that comes from a live animal, right? If the animal's still alive and they drink the blood, it's also an avera. And we're going to say that that's going to be part of the Aver Minachai, so he's still considering it in the 7.
Why don't you hear that in the 7 law?
Because we are, because we're going to call that the same thing as Aver Minachai. Just like they can't eat meat from a live animal, they can't drink blood from a live animal. Okay? Rabbi Chidka says, Af al hasirus. Also, castration of animals is also going to be a prohibition, or human beings for that matter, right? They can't perform any of that. That's going to be a problem. And we're going to explain.
Pet,
right.
Dog.
A pet or a dog is going to be prohibited to get it spayed or neutered, right? Can't do that, right? So one of the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, right? Yes, yeah. I was thinking immediately, thought of Bob Barker as soon as I saw
Why would Bob Barker?
Oh. Every end of Price is Right, Bob Barker would say, remember to have your pet spayed or neutered.
Yeah.
Who knew that he was chayav Misa Daraisa?
I don't remember that line. It's
so
yeah.
Fun. Yeah. Absolutely.
It was a weird way to end the Price is Right, but that's how he did it every single time. Sign off.
Yep.
Rabbi Shimon says, Af al hakishuf. Also, if they do magic, right? Magic is no good for non-Jews either. Also, Isser, that's going to get them killed. Rabbi Yossi says, Kolmer Parshas Kishuf. But now, as far as just is concerned, are we adding more to the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach? We'll hang on to that. We're going to see that either these mitzvahs are part of other mitzvahs or they take off other ones. We're going to see according to these different shitos. But we're going to, I believe, if I understood it properly and I went through the review, we're still going to keep to the tradition that there's 7, right? So even though we're adding new ones in, they're not really out. It's not going to throw off our count, I believe.
So toldos.
Well, some of there's like tolados of certain sort of third way. So now Rabbi Yossi Omer says Kol ha'Omer beParshas Kishuf. Anything that is written in the Torah's portion about Jews, what Jews cannot do as far as witchcraft and sorcery, Ben Noach Musar Alav, also non-Jews can't do that either. Lo yimatzi b'cha ma'avir b'no bito ba'esh. Like for example, you can't pass your son through fire. Kosim kisamim, somebody who gathers up animals with mystical powers or abilities, I guess like the Pied Piper kind of a thing. That's not allowed. They would use some sort of incantations and maybe even snake charming or those kinds of things. Me'unan umenachesh and umechashiv. We'll see what each one of these are. V'chover chovar. All of these sorts of things. V'shol Ov Yidoni asks Ov and Yidoni. Ov and Yidoni are two different ways to tell the future or talk to the dead. As we'll see, V'dorish al hamesim, and then talking to the dead. Ubeglau hatoiv ha'ela. Why? How do we know that all of those are the things that are listed that Jews can't do? How do we know that also non-Jews can't do those same things? Because it says Ubeglau hatoiv ha'ela Hashem Elokecha morish yosam mipanecha, that because non-Jews did these things, that's why they got thrown out of Eretz Yisrael. So if they were not prohibited, why would they get punished? So they must have been prohibited from doing them, and they did them, hence they got punished. That's why they lost Eretz Yisrael. So if you go to the United Nations and you explain to them that where's the Jewish tradition, why do Jews have the rights? The answer is because you guys couldn't stop your magic and sorcery, right? Below onash ela imkain his here, you would not be able to get punished if you were not warned it was an avera in the first place. Rabbi Elazar Omer af al hakil ayim. The other thing that non-Jews can't do is also kill ayim. Right?
Two animals.
Well, there's two different ways. There are lots of different types of kilayim, right?
Mixing.
So we're going to say, mutar b'nei noach lil bosh kilayim. They can wear kilayim. They can wear wool and linen. That's not the issue, right? Shotness is not an issue. Velizroa kilayim. They're also not a prohibition against planting mixed crops together, grapes together with wheat. That's not the problem. Ve'nasurin ela beharvas behema ubeharkavas ha'ilon. The problem that non-Jews cannot do is they cannot mate different types of animals together to get, I don't know, it's not a new species, but a hybrid, right? So if they take a horse, this is what we had this conversation last Gemara, a horse and a donkey together gets a mule. So that is not something that the non-Jews are supposed to do actively, according to this Shita, right? They cannot mix a lion and a tiger and get one of those ligers, right? They cannot mix those together. Or dog, I don't know if dog breeding is the same thing, because dogs are all the same species.
They did with bees, where they
right?
got
unicorns.
Unicorns, yeah, I don't know where unicorns fall. and as far as trees, also grafting trees, right? In order to be able to get tangerines or something like that. Or what do you call it? Not plums. Plums are the. There's another one. Apricot. What is it?
Plum cut.
There's like other different kinds. That would be the prohibition that they wouldn't be able to actively do that. Now the produce, right? Grafting. They can't do that. Minoni mili. Where do we know that from? I'm Rabbi Yochanan Damar Kra. Rabbi Yochanan says the pasuk says, "Vayitzav Hashem Elokim el ha'adam lemor." Hashem told Adam, saying, "Mikol eitz hagan achol tochel." You have to be able to eat from all the fruits of the gan, right? Only the natural species that exist, that's what you're supposed to be satisfied with. You're not supposed to create new things by intermixing things in order to create new things. Vayitzav, so now into the pasuk. The pasuk now, this is the pasuk now says, this pasuk, Vayitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam lemor mikol eitz. This is the source for all the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Okay? Every word in this pasuk, this is the commandment. Hashem meets Adam and tells him, this is all you got to do. Just to eat from the tree. That was not what he was saying. He was giving him Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Here's how it goes. Vayitzav, Hashem commanded, Elu hadinim. This was telling Noach to make Adam to make and establish courts. V'chein hu omer, because the pasuk says, we have other places where the word Vayitzav is used to mean courts. Ki yedativ l'man asher yitzav es banav, right? That the pasuk says in Bereshis, Shamru derech, this Avram is told to make sure that they're supposed to be to command all of his children that they're supposed to make tzedakah and mishpat, that they're all supposed to live with laws and tzedakah and righteousness. So therefore, since Avram was commanded that to keep laws and righteousness, the word vayitzav, when it was given to Adam, means laws.
Right.
Okay, we'll go through these quickly. So Hashem, Zubirkus Hashem, right? Hashem, we said, was saying the cursing of Hashem's name. V'cheinu, as the pasuk says, V'nokev Shem Hashem Mos Yumas, because the word Hashem is listed in that other pasuk. It's like a Gzer Shava kind of a thing, right? V'nokev Hashem is Mos Yumas. Elokim, Zu Avodas Kochavim. Elokim refers to the prohibition of idol worship. V'cheinu, as the pasuk says, Lo Yelcha Elokim Achirim Lo Yelcha Elokim Achirim. Can't have other gods. Al Ha'adam. Right, Zu Shvichas Damim. He was commanded that he shouldn't murder with the words Al Ha'adam. V'chein because the pasuk says Shofech Dam Ha'adam, somebody who kills another person. So then his blood, he will be held accountable. That's by Noach when he comes out of the table. He's given permission to eat meat from animals, but not kill people. More than it says, saying Zugilai Arayas, that refers to incestuous relationships. V'chein the pasuk says, Lemor Hein Yeshach Isa Shishto V'halach Mito. Right, this is what pasuk is telling us about a divorce. When a woman gets divorced from her husband, then she can go marry somebody else, but not before that. Otherwise, it becomes an adulterous relationship becomes also.
Wait, can I ask a question? Did you say we're not allowed to kill using Hashem's name?
No.
Just stop.
Plain, can't kill.
Okay,
right.
That's what I want.
Murder generally is also.
Right. No,
yes.
I know. I thought this was specifying with
yes, no. And the non-Jews are prohibited in murder just as much.
Right. Okay,
right.
Yeah, that I know. Yeah.
So Mikol Eitz Hagan, from the trees, all the trees of the garden. Velo Gezel, right? Not stolen things, right? Because Achol Tochel, right? So he says you only these are hefker, the ones that are here in the tree in the garden here. Anybody can eat them. That's what you can eat, not things that you steal from another person that belong to another person. And Achol Tochel, you should eat. V'lo Ever Menachai. You can't eat Ever Menachai. Now we're going to get to the issue of how Adam is being told not to eat Ever Menachai when originally Adam was actually told that he can't eat any meat.
Right.
Right? It's going to be an issue. Discuss.
So Adam was basically Adam was basically
yes.
Adam was basically a vegan.
Huh? Adam was definitely a vegan. Yes. Adam was definitely a vegan. And the issue with Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach is that Adam was actually the one who was commanded from them, according to the opinion that learns it from this pasuk. We can see other opinions that learn it from different psukim. But why do we call him B'nai Noach? Because when Noach came along, there was nobody else besides him anyway. So it becomes more precise. Ki Elser of Yitzchak. So Rav Yitzchak came along. He said, Tani Ipcha. I learned it the other way around. Vayitzav, the word Vayitzav is Zu Avodas Kochavim, and that refers to idol worship because it says, and Elokim Zu Dinin, and the word Elokim means judgment. So Bishlam Elokim Zu Dinin. I understand why he says that the word Elokim means judgment. The pasuk says, V'nikrov Balabayas El Elokim, right? Then when you have to ask for judgment, the person who is the litigant comes to the Elokim, which is a judge. El Vayitzav Zu Avodah Zarah, my mashma. Where's the word Vayitzav imply Avodah Zarah? So Rav Chisda, Rav Yitzchak, Bar Rav Di, Michad Amar, one says, Sar Maher Min Aderech Asher Tzivisem. This is by they made an Egel Hazov. So they quickly went away, and it says Asher Tzivisim from the word Tzivoy, and that implies idol worship. And V'chad Amar, other one says a pasuk from Navi, Asuk Ephraim, Ratzutz Mishpat Ki Hoil Halach Acharei Tzav. That the people of Ephraim, which is the Jewish people, wasn't only Ephraim, they were oppressed by their previous bad deeds that they did because they went after their idolatrous ways. So they wound up getting punished for their idolatrous ways. The word tzav is written over there. My beinaihu, what is the difference between the two opinions? Eka beinaihu akum she'asa avodah zarah v'lo hishtach v'lo. One says, what happens if a non-Jew makes an idol but he doesn't worship it? Does he get killed for that? Laman da'amar asu. So according to the opinion that it comes from the cheta egel, the word there is that they made an egel. So therefore, mishas asiyah michayev. The prohibition is from the time you make the idol, right? Whether you worship it or not. Laman damar ki hoil halach. The one says, since you worship, you went after it. So ad ozil basra, you have to actually worship the idol. Falachla, right? Until you worship the idol, go after it and worship it, then it's not prohibited. So that's what nafkamina makes what pasuk you learn it from. Amar Rava. Rava says, one second. Is there any opinion that holds that somebody who makes an idol, a non-Jew who makes an idol, but he doesn't worship it, that he's chayav misa for that? That time we're in a brisa. Be'akum Devarim shebeist in Shli Yisrael mamisin alehem benoach muzhar alehem. When it comes to non-Jews, how do you know which things are prohibited, which things are not? So the way the general rule is like this. Anything that a Jewish court would consider to be a misa penalty for a Jew, so then muzhar alehem, so benoach muzhar alehem, also the non-Jew is also prohibited. Now when it comes to non-Jews being prohibited, we're going to see in the Gemara, prohibited means they get death sentence. There's no other punishment for the
There's
non-Jews.
no leniencies.
There's it. Either it's permitted and there's no punishment, or it's prohibited and again death sentence. But the line is the same line as a Jew for the death sentence. Whatever a Jew would get killed for committing a Avera of Avodah Zarah, that's the same line for a non-Jew. So lemute mai. So what is coming to be excluded here? So lav lemute okum shasa Avodah Zarah v'lo yishtach v'lo. Isn't it coming to tell me that if just like a Jewish person who makes an idol but he doesn't worship it, so it may be a prohibition, but it's not a death penalty, so to the non-Jew, it shouldn't be a death penalty. It shouldn't even be ulcer then because it's not a death penalty. So Rav Papa says, no, that is not excluded. That is in fact included. A non-Jew is included and cannot do that. What is being excluded? Lemute gifuf v'nishuk. Somebody who hugs, an idol worshiper who hugs and kisses his idol. So now, gifuf v'nishuk demai. What kind of circumstance is it that this idol, this non-Jew, he decides he's going to hug and kiss his idol? If you're going to tell me that is the normal way in which this idol is worshipped, right? That everybody goes up and kisses the idol, that's worshiping it. So Barkatolu, then he's just worshipped Avodah Zarah, and of course he's going to get killed. Ella l'mute shelo kedarko. This is telling us that if that is not the way that this idol is worshipped, right? Normally this idol gets a sacrifice. And instead, this Oved Kochavim comes up and gives it a kiss.
Right.
That is not going to be a death sentence.
How bowing down to the idol? Would that be
bowing? So there are certain aveiros, there are certain things that are considered universal modes of. We'll learn that when we get to Gemara Avodah Zarah. Universal modes of worship. So bowing down to it is prohibited, even if that's not the normal way that this idol is worshipped. That is considered a worship, right? Regardless. So there are either things that one does, like for example, there's an idol that you pile a certain type of stones up in front of it. So if you do that, then you've worshipped it. But if you pile up that in front of a different idol, it doesn't mean anything, right? So it has to be the way that this idol is worshipped or something which is an inherent act of worship. Okay, next, dinin. So now when it comes to judging laws, b'nei Noach ifkod, are you telling me that that non-Jews are given this mitzvah that they're supposed to make courts? V'atanya, we're in a brisa. Esther mitzvos nitztavu Yisrael b'mara. There were 10 mitzvos. This is when we're going to get into which number and how we're counting them all that we discussed before. There are 10 mitzvos that the Jewish people were given at Mara. Sheva shekibu alehem b'nei Noach. There were 7 that they already had that the non-Jews also have. Vosifu alehan, and then they added 3 more. What 3? Dinin, judges, Shabbos, v'kibbut avaim. Right. So now, dinin, right? But it says, what about dinim? How could you add dinim if it was already included, right? Dichsiv, sham lo choku mishpat. Sham lo choku mishpat. There it says that how do we know that these are the ones that were added by Mara? Because when Moshe Rabbeinu is talking about their experience in, this is where the Jewish people did not have water in Parshas Bishalach, right? And so there it says that he gave to them their chok umishpat. What does that mean? There he gave them chok umishpat. There he told them to keep laws, to make judges, to make rules, right? And Shabbos the kibbut avaim, and as far as Shabbos the kibbut avaim comes from this past week's parsha. D'chsiv kasher tzivcha Hashem Elokecha these are both in Va'eschanan. In the Aseret Dibros in Va'eschanan, it says the words kasher tzivcha Hashem Elokecha, like Hashem commanded you already in the mitzvos of kibbut avaim and the mitzvos of Shabbos. Now, how did Hashem command it to us if we're at the Har Sinai and we're getting it now? The answer is Hashem must have told it to the Jewish people before, at Mara. So therefore, the Jewish people had these mitzvos, Shabbos and Kibbut Avaim, told them before, and then when they got to Har Sinai, Hashem says, you remember this mitzvah, I already told it to you. Right? So now, V'amar Rav Yehuda, kasher tzivcha b'Mara, like you were commanded at Mara. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav bar Avua. Rav Nachman says the name of Rav bar Avua, lo nitzrecha. So the question is, okay, so how do we have Jewish people getting the laws of judges if it was already included in one of the Sheva Mitzvot B'nei Noach? The answer is, Ella le'eda ve'edim v'asra. The answer is, well, we don't know that the number of judges to judge a Misa case is 23 judges. We don't know that you need to have 2 witnesses. We don't know that you have to have a warning. Those are not rules that are applicable in non-Jewish courts. Those are only rules applicable in Jewish courts. So they had the Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach, plus they were also given new rules about Jewish courts that they had not had before. That's what it means. So ihachi, if that's what it meant, mai v'hosifu alehem dinin, what does that mean in the brisa that it says they added on laws? right? Doesn't mean they added on laws. Rather, it should have been that they gave us the details of the court proceedings. Doesn't mean they added on laws. Ella Amarava, so Rava says no. Lo nitzucha ela dini knossos. The answer is that a new set of laws was established, and that is the rules of knas, right? There was no such concept in non-Jewish law of the knas, the fine for punishment for getting charged double for stealing. Those things
Or coming to class.
well, that's a different type of
I mean,
knas,
they
right?
didn't have chukim anyways. Like chukim for sure they didn't have. We could just say it's
Chukim, right? Well, yes,
Right.
right. So he says knossos. Any of these kinds of rules, there were different rules that were added on that the non-Jews didn't have before.
Right.
So akasif osifu bedinin mi boile. Still, it should say they added some laws on, not they added the concept of courts on. Elamar of Acha Bar Yaakov, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says, Lo nitzucha ela hushiv beistim b'chol pelach u'pelach. No, what does it mean that they added on the courts? It was the obligation to add on a court in every village, b'chol ir v'ir, and in every city. Right? The non-Jews didn't have the obligation to set up a court everywhere they go. But 1 second, if good, is that really true? Non-Jews don't have that obligation to have a court in every city that they have. That time we learn our brisa, Kishem shenistavu Yisrael lo shiv batei dinim. Just like Jews have the obligation to set up courts in every city that they have, non-Jews do too. They have the same obligation to set up courts wherever they are. Rava says, "Hi Tana de Bnei Menashe." Rather, I'll tell you what it is. This Tana, who holds this thing with the laws, is the Tana de Bnei Menashe. Demapik dach va'ayel sach. He removes 2 averos from the Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach, his count. He removes dinim, and he removes the chaf is Beirach, I think it was. 1 second, no.
Didn't remove judgments?
Birch Hashem, yeah, Beirach Hashem. He
What does
says,
that mean? How could a court? What's
he said of the Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach,
right?
making courts was never one of the Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach. And also, cursing Hashem's name was also not one of the Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach. Right? Instead, he puts in, as we saw before, sirus, the castration, right? And he puts in kilayim, right? This prohibition against what do you call it? Grafting, right? Grafting.
Doesn't it clearly say dinim in the Sheva Mitzvahs?
No, it's a pasuk, right? We learned that pasuk in order, right? It doesn't say clearly dinim. Vayitzav meant dinim.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it doesn't say. So he has a different, he knows there are 7, right? I told you to explain which one is missing there. He knows there are 7, but he doesn't count the same 7. So since he doesn't count the same 7, he said we had 7 and then we got 3 new ones. Why? Because according to him, dinim was a new one. But that's who this brisa was. Right?
Okay.
The Tana de Beit Menashe, because we learned the brises of Beit Menashe learns Sheva mitzvos nitzav b'nei Noach. Here are the 7 mitzvos b'nei Noach according to the yeshiva of Menashe, according to Tana Beit Menashe. Avodah zara, of Gilui Arayos, Shvichus Damim, right? We know those. Gezel, thievery, right? Vever Menachai, and then Sirus V'Kilayim, right? This
castrating and mixing.
That's the ones. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Adam Arisha lo nitztave el al avodah zara bilvad." Rabbi Yehuda says. Another sheet of the Hashem Mitzvah B'Noach. Other Arisha only had 1. That was don't do avodah zara. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, "Vayitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam." Right, this is the pasuk that was the same pasuk. Hashem commanded on Adam. So therefore, Hashem gave the command. I am Hashem to Adam. Right, that's basically what it is. So therefore, there's no avodah zara. That was all that it is.
Why did you just say Adam? Why doesn't it tell everyone else?
Because there was only Adam present. He was only the only one alive. Right, so he's the only guy. He's the one who got it. Then he had to transmit it to all of his children. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira Omer. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira says, "Af al birkas Hashem." Even the concept of cursing Hashem was there. V'yesh omrim af ahadinim. Some also add on to this same shita that also was the court case, the establishment of courts. Kaman Ozla ha de Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. So according to whom does this statement of Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav? Elokim ani lo sekalaluni. Right? I am Hashem, do not curse me. Elokim ani velo simiruni. I am Hashem, and do not rebel against me. Elokim ani yehei mora'ay alechem. I am God, and your fear should be upon you. Keman, who's that like? Ki Yeshomrim. That's the Yeshomrim, right? Who says that according to Yehuda, right? This is the Yeshomrim, that cursing Hashem is one of the Shefa Mitzvos B'nei Noach. Right? Tana de Beit Menashe. So we learned in the Brises of Yeshiv Menashe, I Dorish Vayitzav Afilu Chaninami. 1 second, what's going on here? If you're going to learn the pasuk of Vayitzav, right? That's where these come from. Then why doesn't he learn all 7? Right? Ilo Dorish Vayitzav. If he's not using the pasuk of Vayitzav, Hani Minale. Then how did he get these 3 specifically? Right? Either you learn the pasuk and 7 are included, or you don't learn the pasuk, in which case you've got none. So where is this coming from? Liolam lo darsh. The answer is really ultimately he doesn't. Vayitzav hani kol chada vechada ba'apei nafshei ksiv. Rather, what he says is the sheva mitzvos b'nei Noach were explicitly taught in other areas of the Torah, not in this pasuk. This pasuk is not to tell us that. There's other sources, right? Because where does it say?
It means everyone.
Correct. Each one was written in its own place. Avodah Zarah v'Gilui Arayos. Where do we say Avodah Zarah and Gilui Arayos? Where are those? Dichsiv, the pasuk says, "Vatisha ches haaretz lifnei Elokim." When the flood came and the world was going to get destroyed, the world became destroyed before Hashem. Okay, that's what it says.
I'm hearing that the flood has during Noah's time was hot water, not regular cool.
That is true, right? And we know that it is a punishment. Can't be punished unless you did something wrong. So a Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, we learn in the Tana of Rabbi Shmuel, whenever the word hashchasa is used, it refers to 2 averos, arayos, and avodah zarah. Davar erva shenemar, why? Because the pasuk says by erva, ki yishchis kol basares darko, right? All of the flesh turned away in their ways, right? And avos kachavim dichsiv pentashchisun vasisem, right? Lest you be destructive and you do all of the averos that the non-Jews were doing. So therefore, you see that the word hashchasa refers to these 2 averos. Ve'iduch, okay. So now the other one will say or chayhu de kamagali, right? We don't learn anything from these psukim because we already had the servants from the other pasuk. What do they do with these psukim? The answer is we're just explaining the facts, right? These are the averos that they were doing, right? They were also from the other pasuk, and these are the averos that they happen to be doing, and that's why they got punished. Right? Shvichos damim. What about the pasuk by shvichos damim? Dichsiv, the pasuk says, shofech dam ha'adam. Right? Somebody who spills the blood of a person, he will have his blood will be held accountable. That's what the pasuk says.
Blood, which means murder.
Correct. Yes. Spilling blood is murdering. Pasuk says, shofech dam ha'adam ba'adam damo yishafech. Right? His blood will also be spilled. Kibitzel mokim asa Hashem es adam. Hashem made all human beings in His image. Okay. Ve'iduch. Huh? And the other opinion is going to say?
I was going to say this because it happened before the laws of Bnei Noach, right? He punished them for things that happened before the laws of Bnei Noach. So you think the laws of Bnei Adam?
No, that's the point.
The reason why.
Oh, so you're saying why are we calling them again? Why are we calling them Bnei?
Right.
Sheva mitzvah Noach when it's really mitzvah Bnei Adam.
Because they're supposed to be given to Noach.
Right, especially since they were doing it before Noach's time.
That's what I'm saying, yes. Right. Those laws had to be in place before because
they must have been called Bnei Noach because they got handed down to the children of Noach. But yeah, that's the proverbial usage is Bnei Noach, even though you're right. All the explanations are that they were actually commanded to Adam. They were not commanded to Noach. Okay. So the answer is, what about that one? So according to Pasuk says, there it is. See, clearly it says the murder. So what about this? What does this Pasuk teach according to the one who learned it from the other Pasuk? The answer is, V'idach katlaihu hu de kamagali. The answer is because we're learning that from there, the punishment for murder. The punishment of murder is that the person gets killed, right? That's the source where non-Jews get the death sentence for all of the Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach that they do, that they get sayef, as we said before. Was it for Thursday, right? That they get misa of sayef for all the punishments that they do. Dichsiv. Now Gezel, where's for thievery from? Dichsiv. Pasuk says Kerek Esav Nasati Lachem, right? That it says that in Bereshis when Noach is given permission to eat meat. So he says now meat will be able to be eaten to you just like all the vegetables of the field. So now, ask Kiyark Esav Nasati Lachem. So therefore that shows us that Esav, that just like the vegetables of the field, that's what you can have. Nasati Lachem es kol. Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Levi explains, Kiyark Esav, the ones that you can eat are the vegetables that are like grass, v'lo kiyark gino, not the vegetables that are in somebody's garden. Right? The ones that are wild vegetables, that's what you can eat. You can't eat the ones that are in somebody's field. Ve'idoch, the other one, it says, Ahu lemishri basar hu da'asa. That pasuk is only coming to tell us the simple mitzvah that, or the simple allowance to be able to have meat, right? The allowance to have meat. That's what that pasuk's for. Aver min achai. Where's the pasuk about aver min achai? Dichsev. The pasuk says, ach basar benafsho damo lo sochelu. Right? You should not be able to eat any of the meat. Right? That's while the animal is still alive, while its nefesh is still in it. Ve'idach. The other one says, no, that pasuk is lemeshe shratzim hudasa. We're going to explain this. That only those animals that's blood is in it to cause it to be alive, those are the animals that you cannot eat their flesh while they are still alive, which excludes animals like the grasshoppers, which are kosher, and their blood is not considered their nefesh. Also fish, right? You don't have to worry about soaking and salting fish and removing the blood. Only animals that are the only animals that you can't eat the blood from are shrutzim. Are the only animals again are the ones you cannot that the meat is the blood is the life force of that animal. Okay, so not the sherets. Sirus. Now we go into the other mitzvos that he adds on. Where's the source for the castration? The pasuk says shartzu ba'artz v'rabuba. The mitzvahs b'nei Noach. It says that you're supposed to spread out and go through the land. Ve'idach lebracha b'yalma. That was just a bracha, right? Hashem was just giving everybody a bracha, not a mitzvah. Kil ayim. What about the mitzvah of kil ayim? Dichsiv me'a'of l'minehu. That when Noach took into the teva, he took each bird for its type. Right? He didn't mix the birds together. So ve'idach hahu litzav sabiyama. That was just telling us that a bird, right? Remember, nobody had any relations on the teva anyway. This was simply for comfort, right? That it is that each species wants to be with a mate of its own species in order for it to be comforted. So that was the commandment that was given there. But we see that now there's an alternate source for Sheva Mitzvos B'nai Noach, and those are the alternate version of the Sheva Mitzvos B'nai Noach, not coming from the other pasuk. So we've got we've actually three sources now for Sheva Mitzvos Noach. According to one, there's one Sheva Mitzvos Noach from that pasuk in Parak Beis and Bereshis. The other one is going to learn 5 that are the same and 2 new ones from various places throughout. And then the other opinion was that we had only 3 Sheva Mitzvos B'nai Noach, or 1 or 2, or perhaps potentially 3 of the Sheva Mitzvos B'nai Noach, and that's learned from the same pasuk in Bereshis, but the other ones are out from it. Okay, that's the place to stop. We'll stop here.
I have a lot of questions. It's interesting. I learned that